The Vorthaan Compliance Array at Karath Station processed 11,412 lifeforms in the 48 hours before our rotation landed. I know the number because it was printed on the intake manifest they handed me when the transport ramp came down. 11,412. Every one of them logged, categorized, and filed in under a second apiece. The array had been operating without incident for 6 standard years. The Vorthaan compliance officer on duty that morning told me so himself, unprompted, while Bo sat at my left boot and watched him with the soft, half-lidded patience of a dog who has been awake longer than anyone in the room and sees no need to advertise it. Bo is an English Mastiff. He weighs 89 kilograms on a good day, less when the rations have been thin, which on a 6-week transit run they often are. His coat is fawn, dark-muzzled, and at 7 years old, he has gone slightly silver around the jowls. He looks, if you are being honest, like a very large ottoman that someone has taught to breathe. The Corps issued him to me when I was 19, and he was 2, and in 5 years together, he has never once done anything I could call dramatic. He walks beside me. He sits when I stop. He watches things in the particular way that old livestock dogs watch things. Not hungry, not tense, just present in a way that takes up more room than his body actually occupies. Karath Station sits on the edge of the Vorthaan administrative zone, in the upper atmosphere of a world whose name, in the local dialect, translates roughly to Pale Sister. From the loading ramp you can see the field below, flat, pale yellow grass stretching to a ridge of oxidized red rock. Big sky. The light comes in at an angle and turns everything the color of old brass. It is, for an alien world, not a bad place to stand. The array checkpoint is at the base of the ramp, just before the field. Standard configuration: a scanner arch, a compliance panel, 2 Vorthaan officers in their gray administrative coats, and a queue. Our unit filed through in order. 9 Marines, 2 supply specialists, 1 embedded translator. The array processed each of them in the standard way. A soft tone, a green indicator on the panel. Category confirmed. They were logged and waved through. The whole column took 4 minutes. Then Bo walked through the arch. The tone did not come. I noticed first because I was watching him, the way you watch a dog you are responsible for in an unfamiliar place. He walked through at heel, unhurried, his big head slightly lowered, his nails clicking on the metal grating. He reached the other side and sat, because I had stopped, and looked back up at me with the expression he always has when we've arrived somewhere new: mild curiosity, zero concern. The compliance panel was cycling. That was unusual. The standard scan takes less than a second, and the panel confirms immediately. At 3 seconds, it was still cycling. At 6, it was running what looked like a secondary diagnostic. At 10, the senior compliance officer leaned forward and read something off the display that made him go quiet. I did not say anything, neither did Bo. At 14 seconds, the panel escalated automatically to a Tier 2 override. I know what a Tier 2 looks like because our translator, a woman named Adiziz who had worked Vorthaan checkpoints for 11 years, went slightly still when the light changed. She would tell me later that she had never seen one triggered in a biometric scan. Tier 2 is for weaponry, for prohibited materials, for things the array cannot immediately place into an existing classification. At 22 seconds, a second officer arrived from the compliance booth, and the 2 of them had a brief, quiet exchange over the panel. I caught one phrase, because Adanes was close enough to translate, "Not in the Matrix." Bo yawned. It is a very large yawn for a very large dog. He set his chin back down on his paws. At 31 seconds, the panel printed a single physical line. An older protocol, Adaeze told me, reserved for escalations that the system's automated tiers cannot resolve. The senior officer tore it from the printer, read it once, folded it, and placed it in the inside pocket of his coat. He then looked at me, looked at Bo, and reached forward, and cleared the panel manually. Cleared for transit, he said. Thank you, I said. He did not respond. He was already writing something in his log with his back partially turned. We walked out into the pale yellow field. The brass light was warm. Bo found a patch of dry grass about 40 meters from the ramp and lay down in it, the way he always lies down in sunlight when we stop moving, heavily, with a long exhale, chin on the ground, eyes tracking the middle distance, with the profound disinterest of a dog that has already assessed the surroundings and found nothing worth getting up about. I sat beside him for a while. The rest of the unit had moved ahead toward the station's surface access point, and I had told the sergeant I'd follow once Bo had settled. He had not argued. The sergeant had worked with Bo for 6 months and had stopped arguing about things related to Bo some time ago, without ever quite saying so. That evening I found the suppression code. It was not buried. That is what surprised me. The Vorthaan administrative system at Karath Station maintains a public access compliance registry. Any filed suppression or override is indexed there within 12 hours, as a matter of administrative transparency, though the content of the suppressed document remains sealed. It is the kind of transparency that works because almost no one looks. I looked. The entry for our checkpoint time read, Biometric override, Tier 4 escalation, classification suspended pending matrix review, attached code 9 sub 7. I found the code definition in the station's public charter. It took me longer than it should have, because it was in a supplementary annex that had not been revised in 23 years, which is the kind of place you only find something if you know to keep looking. Clause 9, sub 7 read, applicable to lifeforms whose accurate classification would necessitate structural revision of the Vorthaan threat matrix at the category level. Filing of such classification is deferred pending review by the Matrix Revision Authority. Pending review, the subject is to be granted transit clearance and logged as category suspended. I read it twice. Outside, through the station window, the pale yellow field had gone dark under the alien night. I could see Bo from where I was sitting. He had moved from his patch of dry grass to just outside the surface access door, which is where he always positions himself when I am inside a building without him, close enough to the door that he will hear it open, angled so that he can see both the approach from the field and the door itself. He was not asleep. He was doing the thing he does when he waits, which is sit in the dark and breathe, and track whatever needs tracking, and let the time pass without complaint. He has done that for 5 years. I thought about the compliance officer folding that printout and putting it in his pocket. I thought about the word pending, 23 years that annex had been sitting in the charter. I wondered how many entries were filed under 9 sub 7. I wondered if anyone had ever gone back to revise the matrix. I suspected, in the dry, flat way you suspect something you already know, that the answer was no. That the Vorthaan threat matrix had been written when Earth was a notation in a survey file, and that no one had looked at it recently enough to understand what it might need to contain. The matrix had met Bo today. It had run its analysis to 31 seconds, printed 1 line, and then a compliance officer had put that line in his coat pocket and cleared the entry and gone back to his log. It was, from a certain angle, the most sensible thing to do. The alternative was to open the annex and begin the revision, and that was a great deal of work, and Bo was already on the other side of the arch and looking entirely unbothered about all of it. I pulled on my jacket and went to the door. He heard it before it opened. By the time I stepped outside, he was already standing, his tail moving in the slow, low arc that means he is satisfied rather than excited, the wag of a dog that was not worried you were gone and is not surprised you are back. I put my hand on the back of his neck, in the place between his shoulder blades where the coat goes thick and warm, and he leaned into it for a moment, then looked out at the field. The brass light was gone. The red rock ridge was a shadow. Pale Sister turned slowly under her big sky, and the stars came out cold and close, the way alien stars do, and Bo stood beside me and breathed, and watched the dark with the same unhurried attention he gives everything. The Matrix would get around to him eventually. He didn't seem concerned.